oh, you're doing fitness on YouTube. How are you going to make money if you don't sell programs? I'm not, but I want to help you guys get jacked. So I'll make free programs. Hey, what's up, guys? So with all of the noise in the fitness industry online, I wanted to make a video geared towards beginners and giving them some practical advice for starting the gym, because honestly, there's kind of too much information out there and it can be really overwhelming. My advice, if I were to boil it down into its simplest form, it would be keep it simple, train hard, eat well, rest well, and have fun. If you do that, honestly, that can take you all the way up to being advanced. So I'm going to break this down into a few different parts. Hopefully I cover everything. If not, be sure to drop a comment, ask me whatever, or say, hey, you forgot this, or I'm wondering about this. Let's start off with exercises, specifically exercise selection. As a beginner, even as an intermediate, you can just stick to the basic movements. You don't need to do what's optimal or the most biomechanically perfect movement. You can stick to basic things like squat, bench, some kind of deadlift variation, basic curl, basic tricep movement. All of these are excellent exercises. And the difference between these and the optimal exercises is a lot less than you think. As long as you're consistent, even mediocre exercises can take you a long way. In fact, I would say if somebody's doing the most optimal workout, but they're not having fun and they're not being consistent, they will gain less muscle than somebody who's doing only mediocre exercises, but has fun doing them and is consistent with them over a very long period of time. So don't worry about, complicated exercises or finding the perfect exercise. Just stick with the basics, try out new things here and there, and if it works for you and you enjoy it, awesome. Use it. But don't let anybody tell you that this exercise is bad or that exercise is bad. If it works for you and you like it, it's a good exercise. Next up, volume. High volume or low volume, they both work. They both work really well. So it doesn't really matter which one you choose as long as you enjoy it. Although for beginners, to be perfectly honest, I would recommend starting with low volume because low volume is going to teach you to train hard. And that is one of the most important things, is pushing yourself hard. And if you're doing high volume, that can sometimes be difficult because if you're doing 15 sets for a given muscle group, well, in the beginning, you're probably not going to want to push hard. And towards the end, you're probably not going to have the energy to push hard. Now, this may not be the case when you're more experienced. Then you have that experience to be able to push hard all the way through. But especially when you're first starting out, your first year in particular, you don't know how to push hard. You need to teach yourself how to push hard, how to push through the pain and push through your brain telling you that you've reached the point where you can't do anymore. You need to learn how to push through that because when your brain starts telling you to stop, you can do more. Now, I do feel like I should say, you shouldn't be pushing to absolute failure on something like a deadlift or a flat bench press or like a barbell back squat. Like those ones you may want to leave some in reserve because pushing to failure on those is pretty dangerous. But for the most part, for most exercises, it's generally going to be in your best interest to just go to failure. As an example, if you're doing like a bicep curl or like some kind of dumbbell bench press, take that to failure. Keep going until you just can't get the weight up and you're just pushing and it's not moving. And at that point, count to 5. Once you... Hi, Becca. If you get to 5 and that weight hasn't moved, you're probably okay to just go ahead and dump the weight. So starting off with low volume will help teach you to do this, because if you only have 1 or 2 working sets for an exercise, you need to push hard to make it count. For progression, of course, everybody knows about progressive overload and that progressive overload is important, but some people misrepresent what you should expect. For example, I do see somewhat commonly people saying choose exercises that you can add weight to every week. Maybe you can do that in the first couple of months, add weight every week, but beyond that, it's just not going to happen. You know, I've even seen some people talk about adding weight every week for a year. That is literally impossible. I promise you. Take literally any exercise and then think, okay, lowest weight that you can add week to week is typically, unless you're microloading, 5 pounds. What's 5 times 32? Do you really think you're going to add that much weight to any exercise in a year? No. Never going to happen. So anyone recommending this is honestly an idiot. So what do? You pick a rep range, okay? What rep range? Just pick one. Typically anywhere from 5 to 20 reps works. For compound movements, maybe you go a little bit lower, you know, maybe like 5 to 8 or 6 to 10, or if you want to, 8 to 12. But for heavy compound movements, I like, you know, in the 5 to 8 range, sometimes 6 to 10. That's a pretty good solid bet. For a lot of isolation movements, you want to go with about 8 to 12. For smaller muscle groups, like, for example, side delts, you might want to bump that up and go like 8 to 15 or 12 to 20. So once you've picked your rep range, try to get to the point where you're at the top of that rep range. If you're going with my advice for low volume, you could just keep going until both sets are at the top of that range. Or, you know, let's say you're doing 6 to 10. If you get 10 on the first set and 8 on the second set, that's also fine. Bump the weight up and then keep going until you can get back to the top of that rep range. Then repeat. After a while, you may get stuck at a certain weight for some time, you know? Maybe, oh, thank you. Thank you, Becca. Maybe you'll be stuck there for a few weeks. There have been times where I've been stuck for a couple of months. If you're stuck for like a month or two, then it might be a good time to take a deload. So either cut your weight and reps in half for a week or just take a week off. If you do that and you're still stuck, it's okay. Don't stress. Just keep pushing. There have been a couple of times where I've been stuck for a couple months. I take a deload, I'm still stuck, and I just keep pushing through, and at some point, you know, my reps just start going up, 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 and I'm able to increase the weight, up, 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 increase the weight, and then I'll get stuck again. Oh, sorry, Becca, sorry. Okay. Sorry, guys, my daughter keeps giving me water. So don't stress about it too much. This is a long, slow process. It takes time. You need to trust the process. It does work. It will work. Also keep in mind that sometimes you might get stuck because of things that are outside of the gym. Could be your diet, could be your sleep, could be just stress in your life. Those things can all have an impact. Sometimes it's hard to say what's causing a plateau. Okay. But like I said, just trust the process. Now let's talk about training splits. What's the best training split? There isn't one. The best split is the one you enjoy and the one that keeps you coming back to the gym. Why is that? It's because when weekly volume is equated, they're all pretty similar. Even a bro split where you're training each muscle group once a week, if weekly volume is equated, it produces pretty similar muscle growth to training twice a week. So, as a beginner, how do you know which training split you're going to enjoy? You don't. So does that mean you should just try a bunch of them? Well, no, there are some guidelines that you should follow for what to start out with. The first one is, how many days a week do you have to train in the gym? If you only have 2 or 3 days to go to the gym per week, then probably you'll want to start with a full body split. If you have 4 days a week to go to the gym, then you could try an upper-lower split or a torso and limb split. Now, upper-lower is pretty self-explanatory, pretty famous. A torso and limbs is where you have a torso day where you train chest, back, and shoulders, and then a limbs day where you train arms and legs. You could also do a 4-day bro split where some muscle groups are paired together, but you're only training them once a week. A classic example is like you train chest and biceps, then back and triceps, take a day off, then train shoulders, then legs, and then 2 days off. And there are other ways to configure that so that you're pairing different things together. But that could be an option if you want to train once a week. Not sure that I'd recommend that for a beginner. I think full body or upper, lower, or torso and limbs is going to be your best bet. But it is an option to do a bro split, a 4-day bro split, if you want to. Programs. Do you need to buy a program? Absolutely not. You don't. A lot of fitness influencers, this is one of the reasons why they overcomplicate things so that they can sell you their programs. Okay, you do not need to buy any programs. There are a ton of free ones online that you can find that work just fine. And actually the way that I started out was I started out doing free programs, and then as I learned more, I started tweaking them, modifying them until I was eventually just making my own programs. So that is a perfectly valid way to get your programming. Also, because I honestly do not think people should charge for programs, I will make some free programs to give you guys, okay? So be sure to comment and let me know what kind of training split that you want me to make a program for, and I will do it. Now, I'm gonna just go ahead and do this anyway, but let me know which one you like to see first. I still don't typically get many, if any, comments, so if you just say what you want me to do, I'll just go ahead and do that. Now, that may sound kind of weird to some people, like, oh, you're doing fitness on YouTube. How are you going to make money if you don't sell programs? I'm not, but I want to help you guys get jacked. And I legitimately believe programs should be free. If I wanted to make more money, I'd offer coaching or I'd try to sell something else, but I don't care, honestly. So I'll make free programs. Anyway, I think that about covers everything that I wanted to say. Just, keep that in mind. Keep it simple, stick to the basics, train hard, eat well, sleep well, and most importantly, have fun. If you're not having fun, why are you even doing this? Most of us don't do this as a job. We do it to improve ourselves. And if we're not enjoying that process, then what's even the point? That about does it. So be sure to drop a comment and a like. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you think I forgot anything or if you have any questions. And I will see you guys next time.